Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Greetings to you. My name is Veronica Wenkom, and this afternoon, True Live Reflection of Africa Child is here. I have a live reflection program with another great African man, and the aim of the program is meant to inspire young African youth to focus on education and entrepreneurship. And so I want to explain, if this is your first time of joining, you may not understand. So many African youth go through a lot of challenges. We get stranded along the way. We are frustrated. We don't know which path to take. Social media also has a lot of influences on us. Some of us, as a result of the negative influence on social media, we get frustrated and we get stuck on the way. We don't know what to do. Why not? We have great African leaders. We have great African legends who have married the way in one way or the other, in education, in entrepreneurship. I thought a while that hearing their life stories, I know someone born in Africa, generally the life is not easy, the journey is not usually easy. So if we hear the life story of great people from Africa who have merit, why not? You could pick up your pieces and be inspired and try to make up where you have gone, where you have reached, or whatever is your focus. And so today I have another legend from Africa. In fact, he will introduce himself. Good evening, Professor. Or good afternoon. Yes, it's rather good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon, Veronica, and thank you for inviting me to your very inciting and encouraging program for young Africans. I have had the opportunity to watch a few episodes of your program, and I am happy that I have been invited to this program.
Yes.
As way of introduction, my name is Constantine Yuka. I teach linguistics. I'm a professor of linguistics and I teach in the University of Benin. I've been teaching in the University of Benin now for the last 25 years. Prior to my career in the University of Benin, I also taught in the University of Ibadan, premier university here in Nigeria, for over 6 years. Well, I got my first degree from the University of Yaoundé in Cameroon because I'm Cameroonian of Cameroonian nationality. I barely came to Nigeria to just seek further studies, and I sought after the best university in Nigeria and in Africa. I took a master's degree from the University of Ibadan. Then I took a master's in philosophy degree from the same university. And then I crowned it with a PhD in linguistics. I've risen through the ranks. I joined the University of Benin as a lecturer 2, and I've risen through the ranks, and I was appointed professor of linguistics on the 1st of October 2012. So I've been professor now for a decade and counting, so to say. Way of introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. In fact, we have a few legends like you in Africa, and I think today so many of us are going to be inspired by your life story. We know where you have gotten to in your educational ladder. It's not easy for us, even as the younger generation, to reach that level, but we hope we will pick up some pieces from your life story, how you managed to get to where you are today, and maybe we can also do something and see how Africa goes. Thank you very much, sir, for the short introduction that you have given us.
Thank you.
Into details, we will still want to know more about what were your experiences you had during your educational journey. Maybe from your childhood, at that time you were going to basic school. What were some of the experiences you had?
Well, I will say that I started going to school before I was born. Well, because my father was a village headmaster, And my mother was a teacher. So she carried me in her womb and took me to school. And I grew up literally in a classroom. Um, Major, I thought I wanted to be like my dad, really. And my dad, anytime I said so, my dad will tell me that the joy of a father is for the child to be greater than the father, that I couldn't be aspiring to be just a village headmaster. So when I began to get a little bit older in primary school, my dad got transferred from one village to another. And being the eldest son of the family, I kind of let me tag along. So I grew up associating with my father's friends who used to come see him in the evenings. And because of that, I learned a little bit faster because I used to sit around my father's friends. They would tell old people stories, and I would sit around there and listen. So I grew up literally with my dad, and because of that, I didn't learn how to lie. You know, I couldn't do something if I was washing glasses and one glass got broken. I would just go own up to my dad that this is the accident that happened in the process. I didn't know how to shift it to another person because there was nobody else apart from myself and the dad to shift it. So um, thereafter, when I finished primary school, I went to secondary school, the government secondary school Kumbu then, in Saltboy division of the Northwest province. And I just tagged along and I went to high school in the same school. And then television all of a sudden came to Cameroon, 1985. And I watched all these gentlemen sit well dressed, cast news. And then my ambition grew from simply just aspiring to be a village headmaster like my dad to thinking that maybe if I studied a little bit harder, I could be able to read news on television with the whole nation looking at me. And I thought that the route to become that, which was journalism, so to say, was to go to university. So I went to university and I kept writing this entrance examination into the School of Journalism. Uh, I didn't get through. At one point, I passed the examination, but then I fell ill when the oral interviews were supposed to be held, and these oral interviews passed me while I was in the hospital. And one afternoon, one of my friends told me that if we couldn't go to journalism in the Cameroon National Journalism Training School, that we could go to neighboring Nigeria, that there was this great school where journalists were being trained in Nigeria, and that we could go there. So my quest to come to Nigeria was actually to come so that I could realize my dream of being a journalist. But somehow, um, during my final year, we were expected to specialize in some subject, and journalism was not part of it. And we were split into groups. So I was moving around from one group to the other, looking for some challenges. I went into one of the classes being taught by an Irish lady, and I particularly, for the first time, didn't understand what they were talking about in class. And I had always prided myself as a smart fellow. I thought it was very challenging for me not to understand what the other people appeared to understand. I opted to do it. This was a class in transformational grammar. So that kicked in my interest in languages. And when I ended up coming to Nigeria and applying for some degree, I applied to read linguistics. And that is how I grew up. I got a master's degree, like I said earlier, from University of Ibadan, and then an MPhil, and then a PhD. And somehow along the line, accidentally, I started teaching remedial classes during my postgraduate program. And before you know it, I just got hooked into it and then got moved to University of Benin. I thought I was going to go back to Cameroon. I'm still here. Way of long academic introduction. Yes.
Wow, nice to hear, sir. You made mention that you were born. It seems you
Sorry,
were
I can't hear
your
you.
mom. Yes, from your story, you mentioned that your mom was a teacher. Your mom was a
Veronica, check
teacher.
your
Your
mic.
mother was a teacher. Hello, sir.
Check your mic. I can't hear you.
Okay. Um, there is nothing wrong with my mic here. Let me see if the volume is reduced. Hi, sir.
Hi, sir.
Yes, but I cannot hear you now. Hello. Hi, sir. No, I can't hear you, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please. I hope you can
Oh,
hear me too.
beautiful. Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you very much, sir. Viewers,
Okay.
thank you for joining. Kindly send us hi for us to know that you have joined. You can also send a message to us and just a congratulations to the legend I have today on this program. Thank you very much for joining. So you mentioned that your parents were educated.
Yeah, the where?
Yes, and I hear particularly that your mom was a teacher. So it's like even as you were in your womb, it's like you were already learning. And should I say that you didn't encounter challenges along the line? Should I say
Oh,
that like some of the challenges we go through as African children, especially when you are born from a less privileged home, some of the
yes.
challenges that we go through, should I say that you didn't encounter those challenges?
It would be far from the truth to say that because uh, there were no distinctions. I I once I left primary school, the comfort of my village where my parents were. I went to secondary school like every other person, and we slotted it out. Early morning, rise to school, and our school was a day school. So you can imagine, I went to secondary school at 12 years, and I started not just taking care of myself, but cooking for myself, washing my own clothes, waking up early in the morning, uh, in the bitter cold and dusty roads to go to school. Uh, Very often, you know, there were no distinctions. Nobody recognized secondary school. Nobody recognized that. No, did I have any particular privileges? That I was the son, that I came from some parents who were educated. But I think I began to have real challenges um, when I moved to the University of Yaoundé. You know, uh, in terms of health, at some point I contacted um, some kind of ailment which wasn't particularly detected on time, and they kept treating me for malaria. I mentioned to you that I missed my journalism, oral exam because of health. Yes, I encountered quite some health problems, but thank God they eventually found out. My mother at some point had to come and collect me from the university to bring me to the specialist hospital to be treated. But in terms of real challenges, uh, these challenges came when I was in Nigeria. You know, the communication channel between Cameroon and Nigeria, as close neighbors as they are, was non-existent in the early 90s. Talk less more of financial communication. So many a times I will be totally famished. I will have nothing to eat today, and I won't have know what to eat the next day, and there will be no communication. So at some extent, I think I can tell you the taste of hunger, in my gut. It is part of this hardship that I went through. That I was invited by one of my very good friends, my other brother and mentor, and my master's supervisor, Professor Francis Egbohare. He facilitated that I begin to teach the undergraduate students in the general studies program, and so that I could get a little bit some money to be able to take care of myself. And this is how my career actually started. It started from my challenge of not being able to survive the day-to-day living in terms of not even just books, not even rent, but hunger, the ability to eat a day, not to talk about being sure that you are going to have food on your table the next day. And as I was suffering, so my parents were also suffering, because at that time, my father had retired, my mother had retired. And as you know, in Africa, after retirement, daily survival also becomes a challenge. So, and I could not actually outrightly complain to them because I also know what they were going through. But I kept at my books. I kept striving to be the best. So even within those challenges, I came out the best graduating student in my class from the master's degree. Um, I guess when I look back at my career, I ask myself just how I survived those days, and I up to today I don't have an idea. Maybe just resilience, persistence, the ability to fight, the I can do it spirit that kept me going. And I'm happy that I'm here to look back and smile at those days. So I just think that life has been made a little bit to be too easy now. The kinds of challenges that some of my students face today are not the kinds of challenges that we face. My students are worried about uh, the model of telephone that they use. They are worried about coming to school in a taxi rather than in an Uber or in a bus and all of those. So our kinds of choices doesn't look like the kinds of choices that my students are facing in today's world. It was tough looking back, but we thank God that we passed through those days, and those days actually kind of made who I am today, because today the I can do it spirit is there, and I don't feel particularly challenged that I can't do anything, that there is anything that I cannot do. As a matter of fact, on my table in my office, I have a plaque that says, "It can be done," which means no matter whatever difficulties come my way, once I am determined that this is what I want to achieve, and I assess the route, and I ask myself, can you do it? Once I say yes, then it can be done, and it will be done.
Wow, thank you very much, Professor. It can be done. We are hearing
It
a
can.
lot this evening. Once you
Yeah,
told yourself that it can be done, it means that you'll be able to
it
do it.
will be done.
It is good at us to know more about, so whether you encounter challenges. Sometimes, because you said your parents were educated,
Mhm.
I wanted to conclude that everything was okay for you throughout the journey. But
No.
the follow-up question shows that life wasn't that easy for him, but he still made it. And
Mm.
he also mentioned that sometimes the expectation we have these days, our youth, what we want right now, can give us certain challenges. As at that time, what they were looking for is not the kind of things that we are looking for. And those things
Yes.
can actually get us into challenges. Professor
Yes.
has lead with I can do it spirit. It can be
Yes.
done, as he said. Um, we want to go into your academic work
Yes.
because you mentioned that you have been working. We want to know what is your field? What have you been doing?
Well, like I said earlier, I am I'm a professor of linguistics, and maybe I should say African linguistics, with
Okay,
specialization. Yes, with specialization in syntax.
in what?
In syntax.
Okay,
Yes, I was saying that I'm a professor of linguistics, African linguistics, with specialization in syntax. Generally, I have been interested in the structures, in the study of the structures of African languages. I've been involved with the collection of word lists. I've been involved in lexicography. Lexicography is the dictionary compilation. I've been involved in the writing of grammars, and I've been involved in generally describing the structures of African languages. And I'll give you a little bit a hint into this. Uh, the general belief is that human beings are more productive if their conceptions are related in the languages of their utmost competence. So, as I speak to you in English, if this interview were to hold in my mother tongue, I guess my expressions of the thoughts, of my thoughts, will be a little bit much more clearer. Once you are inhibited by competence in the language in which you express yourself, there is a possibility that your thoughts will not be adequately transferred or transferred through a language which you are not as competent in as you are, maybe your mother tongue, if you are competent in that mother tongue. We're not saying that people can express themselves optimally in English, but in generally, when you have a language as your language two, there is always the general tendency of transferring the features of your language one onto that second language. That's probably why it is very easy to notice when a Frenchman speaks French or speaks English, and you can immediately tell that this is a German just from the way he speaks English. If a Yoruba person speaks English in Nigeria, it is easy for us to know if an Igbo man speaks English, maybe an Ewe man speaks English. You and I don't speak English the same way, principally because we have different language ones. So we kind of unconsciously transfer the features of our language one onto our language two. And that is generally called linguistic substratum. That kind of models up our ability to transfer our cognition, our thoughts, and express them optimally. So, how is this related to the question you asked me? So, my drive has been to push for the development of African languages to the extent that the African languages begin to have the same kind of resources that the English language have, so that we can employ those resources to be able to teach the younger generation, to teach our children these African languages, so that we can begin to explore the world in our own languages. It may not be a secret to you to recognize that of all the developing countries, none of all these developing countries expresses themselves in another person's language. The Chinese generally speak German. The English speak even the all of them. The Japanese. They are confronting the world with their languages. But most African countries, principally because of colonialism, and because probably we have not recognized that that our ability to move Africa to develop to develop societies may be even infinitesimally linked to the language with which we have chosen to confront our problems. So a few years of my life in academics, I've devoted them to attempting to develop African languages, to ensure that African languages are being utilized, that African languages are not dying, that African languages are being passed on to the next generations. And I do that through the study of the structures of African languages. I do that through the compilation of dictionaries, the collection of word lists, and the study of the grammars of these languages. That's what, in a nutshell, that's what I've been doing.
Yes. So thank you very much. I'm really grateful that you spoke about this issue.
Yeah.
I actually got emotional about what you were talking about. In fact, I live in Finland, and Finland has one of the best education in the whole world. I know many
Yeah.
Africans who don't know about Finland. Yes, Finland has the best education in the whole world. And I've
Yes.
had some challenges here. Finland, the people of Finland, they speak Finnish,
Yes.
but they also speak English. In fact, majority of them speak very good English, but
Very
their
good.
mother tongue is Finnish, Finnish, and so that is their national language.
Yes.
Now, I have worked with some of their teachers at their schools, and
Okay.
when we were discussing, there was a particular teacher that she's from Finland here, but she has been to Kenya. And
Okay.
then we were talking, and like she said, like, so what language do what do we teach? What language do we use in teaching our children? And I said
Yes.
English. And she
Yes.
asked me, is that our mother tongue or
English
something like
language.
that? So
Yes.
she asked me, how do you start teaching children English with the English language? When
Yes.
that language is not their mother
It's
tongue.
not their
So how
mother
do
tongue.
they understand what you are teaching
Good
them?
question. Good question.
In fact, so many times I actually get frustrated with this issue. Um,
Yes.
uh, for instance, I was a teacher in Ghana. Here, if I want to teach, I have to get some level of Finnish before I can really teach, be a full teacher in the Finnish classroom, and which I have been doing.
Yes.
Now, when you go to the classroom, they have a way of translating the Finnish language to all the other languages we have in the world.
Beautiful.
In fact, all
Yes.
the other Asian countries. In fact,
Yes.
India have so many languages, but they can find the translation of their languages into the Finnish language. But when you come to Africa, we don't have any of the African languages that is found in the system. That's not apart from English. So it's like sometimes I feel like, are we lost or what? Because all of us from Africa, the only
Yes.
way we can understand what they're saying is through English language. Our language is not found in the system.
Yes.
And it's something that maybe Africa has to really rise up and work on something. If not, I think that something is really wrong with our educational system, or so many things are messed up somewhere, because we are learning so many things we don't even understand. Just as you said,
Yes.
in my language, I can't even write very well. And meanwhile, that is my own language. So a lot of things are really happening. I'm happy that you really raised this issue. I really got emotional because of some of the questions that people ask me here because I'm from Africa. Thank you very
Yes.
much, sir. And I hope you will make an impact in what you are doing and pass it on to the next generation.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yes. So I want to ask a quick question. You said that it's like, what do you say as a child? You started watching television when television came into the system in Africa, and
Yes.
initially, you see the journalists, they used to dress very well. So your first dream was that you wanted to be a journalist, but along
Yes.
the line, didn't work for you. What
Yes.
other things motivated you to change your direction of profession? What were some of the things?
Well, many African children are not guided in their careers. Um, if you ask any general successful career person in Africa, there is always some element of an accident. Either we get to discover ourselves and our talent in something by accident, or we were doing something else and some happenstance comes along. Now, um, uh, being a linguist, one of the things that really ignited me into my interest in languages is that in my primary school days, there was a gentleman came around from Germany and decided to settle, in my locality to study our language. And he tried to compile a word list. But over and above all, one of the things that shocked us was that he was able to learn the language so well to be able not just to begin to write pamphlets and primers in the language, but spoke it so very well. And it was strange to see a white man in our own vicinity, himself, his children, and his wife, and I thought, oh, when I got interested in transformational grammar, basically because I couldn't understand it. I was looking for something a little bit too technical. I didn't want to study literature. I didn't want to study history. I thought that I wanted to, I was interested in investigating something that people could look at and say, oh, wow, how did you come about this? And that came to me in by way of transcription. The fact that I could transcribe my language into IPA, my name into IPA, the IPA alphabet, and I will have people ask me, so why did you write it like this, and all of that, and that's how gradually I began to get interested in the study of languages and in linguistics. But I thought that being a journalist was a little bit more glamorous, more the aesthetics were there, and you become a national star. But I also thought that the IPA charts were a little bit out of the study of the arts, and I wanted to do something a little bit different out of the regular subjects that you have in the arts. And I thought that linguistics gave me that. I've always felt different as a linguist. First of all, linguistics is not studied in Africa. Linguistics is not studied in secondary schools. So when I told anybody I was reading linguistics, they will ask me, "What is that? How many languages do you read?" And I will go ahead to explain to them that to be a linguist is not to be a polyglot. That there are differences. That a linguist is the person who studies the science of languages, the structures of languages, how languages are put together, what makes you understand me when I speak with you, what makes you understand, what is it that we share together when they say that we speak the same language, what is a grammar, and all those things. I thought that, and these are explanations, and up to today, everywhere where we sit down around with my friends, and I give technical explanations to common things, they'll keep asking me, where did that come from? And I'll proudly tell them, I'm a linguist. We study what other people take for granted. And many people, really, my students are often taken aback. They think that when they hear about linguistics, they think they are coming to study some esoteric thing. And then by the time we start introducing them to the structures of their own languages, they feel kind of laid back, say, come on, is this what I came to study? My grandmother knows more of this language than I do. How can I come around into the as a university student? And this is we are drawing examples from my language until it gets a little bit more complicated. Then they begin to understand the complex nature of language. It is that complexity, the complex nature of language, the ability to unravel the patterns of language that really attracted me into linguistics. And I'll say proudly that if I was going to take a second choice, another choice, I would still go for linguistics. I've been very fulfilled studying linguistics, and I think that I've made my own impact in terms of uh, training the younger colleagues, in terms of mentoring the younger colleagues, in terms of supervising PhDs. I move around a lot for external examinations to examine PhD students, master students, and all of and assess younger professors. Yes.
Wow, congratulations, Professor. African is proud of you and the impact that you are making. You have made and you are still making. We
Thank you
hope
very
you pass it on very well to the next generation and we'll be able to take it up from you where whatever you are teaching us. I know some of the youth, wherever you are in Nigeria, have really gotten some kind of transformation from what you are teaching them.
much. Yeah.
So I also wanted to ask you, how many languages do you speak? That was my question, and you actually spoke
Oh,
about it.
good.
That was
Okay.
I had that question in mind, and I saw that you spoke about it. So how many languages do you really speak?
Oh,
Because
let me name them.
you
Let me
have
name them.
yes.
I speak my mother tongue very well, which is
So let's
Lamso. Lamso is
okay.
spoken. Lamso is spoken in Bui Division in the Northwest Province in the Republic of Cameroon.
So how do
Uh,
you do it?
coincidentally, it is also spoken in Saudona local government area in Nigeria. That is in Taraba State. So I speak Lamso. Of course, I speak English as I'm speaking. I speak French, and I speak a little bit of Wimbum, which is a neighboring linguistic group to my village. And of course, I speak both Cameroonian Pidgin and Nigerian Pidgin. So those are the languages that I speak.
Okay, great. So at least let me just learn how to greet good afternoon in your mother tongue.
Oh,
How
fine.
do you say good afternoon?
My people greet according to the times of the day.
Okay.
So if you wake up in the morning, you ask by way of greeting, you ask a rhetorical question. It goes Irania.
Irania.
Beautiful, and you say it very well, Irania.
Yeah.
Yes,
Irania.
it means has the day broken.
Okay.
Yes, it means yes, it means has the day dawned, has the day broken. So I say it's rhetorical because if you see somebody, early in the morning, and the person and you are alive and the person is alive, then the day has broken on us. But we greet by asking that rhetorical question. But it is there's a little bit more intricate there. It's not as simplistic as it sounds. It is a fact that in the world, when the day breaks, so to say, you will find out some other people did not wake with you. Okay, so some people uh, die in their sleep. So it is a celebration of life when we ask the question: Has the day broken? So we've had the grace of God to see another day, to be alive in another day. But it's put in very has the day broken? I mean, Irania, has it broken on you? So in the afternoon, we ask basically the same question. Uh, uh, have you been with the day? Arasinia. Okay. To wrestle
Yeah.
is to take care. To take care. So it sounds like it comes across like, have you taken care of the day? Have you taken care of the activities of the day? Then in the evening, so we say Irania in the morning, Arasinia in the afternoon, and
Okay.
in the evening we say Eugenia. yes, has dust come upon us. So
Okay.
and then at night when we are going to bed, we greet Shikijun, like sleep well for the night. You have a good night. So we have
Thank
three
you very much.
ways of greeting: in the morning, in the
Yeah,
afternoon, in
thank
the
you very
evening, and
much.
later. Yeah,
Yeah, so I know at least if your people are watching you, they will really know that you are coming from that background. They will be very happy to hear you speaking your
yeah.
mother tongue on this
I hope so.
platform. Thank you
Yes.
very much, sir, for agreeing to share your life reflection on this. In fact, I don't know Professor anywhere. He's very kind. When I contacted him, he agreed to share the program with us.
Yeah.
I got in touch with him, and I'm touched that he agreed to share the life reflection with us, African youth. In fact, we have few professors in Africa. We can really count them. So it's really difficult for us to get to your height. But we hope
Mm.
from this life story that you have shared with us, many African youth will pick up some. The journey is not easy, as you mentioned some of the challenges that you went through. It is definitely not easy. We also go through some challenges, and some of us hopefully will be able to get to where you are today. You are
Yeah.
definitely a legend to so many African youth, and we are inspired by your life story.
Mm.
And one last question:
Yes.
what is your advice for African youth? What can we do to get to your height? We are really struggling. It's not easy. The frustration is there. Our expectation. We want to buy new cars. We want to get new phone. We want to get iPhone. There is no money for us to do that. Sometimes we watch so many things. So many African youth, they don't want to work hard. They want to get quick money. All those kind of stuff. And so many African youth are going wayward. The education, we are not even thinking about that one. So, what is the problem? What is the advice you have for us?
Well, I you asked me a very difficult question, but I will try to answer that question as straightforward as I can. Uh, uh, the kind of world in which we grew up is not the world that is confronting the African children and African youths of today. Uh, First of all, there is too much information in the world today. And this information is very easy to access. Uh, and people generally, when they want to compare uh, their status, their goals, and their aspirations, they draw inspiration from the information that is available to them. Unfortunately, uh, not many people take into context what is going on in other parts of the world. They just, it's like what you call in computer language cut and paste. They want to superimpose uh, themselves onto different contexts, and that in a way has become a problem. We grew up thinking that if we go to school, if you pass exams, if you study hard and pass exams, that the government, we graduate in school, we are going to get a job. Those of us, the elders before us, were the independence children, and that is the path which they followed. But today, these youth, the youth of in Africa today, when you graduate from school, that probably is again the beginning of your own challenges, because you will find out that there is no place prepared for you as a certificate holder. Again, many youths are too focused on the paper qualification, that they are not developing themselves to be able to equate that paper qualification with competence. And so society is moving a little bit very fast, and this is frustrating a whole lot of youth. I think that the hands-on training, if you live in Europe, you live in Finland, you will see that that education in Finland is probably meant to solve community problems. So they tailor their institutions to solve community problems. We have not, African educational system has not graduated from the structure set by the colonial masters to quickly graduate people to fill in civil servant positions in the ministry. So consequently, we are educating youths, enabling them with certificates that can't, and these youth do not have the competence to solve community problems. And the youth are beginning to ask themselves, is this education worth it if you cannot get a job for me? So I think on the government side, we need to recalibrate education to ensure that we are training people that can solve the immediate problems that we are encountering in our immediate environment. And we need to begin to derail the youth from this quest for certificates. A certificate doesn't particularly do anything for you if it cannot enable you to do something for yourself. So I think the challenge of the youth is coming because of the structure, and that is said, and they are following this structure hook, line, and sinker, and not asking questions. You will have expected that by now, the African governments will have sat back and taken a look at the educational structure that they are maintaining and begin to ask themselves, how is this contributing to solving our national problems? To the extent that not many African governments have found out that developing a national language policy is a gateway to the developmental advancement in their countries. That this trajectory of trying to teach young children in kindergarten, A for apple, B for ball, and all of that, and executing them, that educational system is not working. And this, maybe I forgot to tell you, maybe I can chip it now. I didn't think it was important. You know, this task is being handled for West Africa by the West African Linguistic Society. The West African Linguistic Society is a learned society of university teachers, university lecturers, professors who are putting their energy, who are working tooth and nail, working hard to be able to develop the languages of West Africa. And yours truly is the current president of the West African Linguistic Society.
Okay. Do you mean that you are the president currently?
I am the current president of the West African Linguistic Society, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
congratulations. A very
Thank
big
you very much.
congratulations. Yes,
Thank you.
yes. I didn't know that exactly. I didn't know.
Yes.
Yes, it's actually true. And we are calling on stakeholders, our leaders, please do something about our educational system. It is really frustrating us. The youth, particularly, we are getting frustrated. In fact, exactly what Professor said. My children go to school at the daycare here. They don't teach them A for apple. They
Yes.
don't teach them those things. It's just like sometimes when I get the opportunity to also work in their schools. The difference is just too much. You can never measure that. And so I think African leaders really has to do something about our educational system. They are really working hard here to solve community problems. Community problem. Every job here is very important.
Yes.
Very, very important. In fact, every job in Finland is very important. In fact, sometimes our people back at Africa, they say some of the black people come here to do cleaning job. In fact, even that cleaning job, they go to school to get a certificate to do the cleaning job. We just don't start. And their salary is not anything. No. They are well paid because that is their job.
Yes.
That is their job. So the difference is just too much, and we are just working on certificates that cannot get us anything, and our youth are getting frustrated. Thank you, Professor, for
Thank you
sharing
very
your
much.
life story with African youth. I'm really grateful that you agree, and you reshadowed everything, and everything was fake, and today it is done, successfully done. I know
Thank
many of the viewers are inspired. At this time, I know so many people are busy. They will come back later and watch, but we have got a very good viewership this afternoon. Thank you, viewers, for joining. If you have not sent us a message, please do. If you have not shared this program, please do. If you have not liked or followed the page, please do. I always say that in Africa, we all have a part to play to make sure that the country is in order. And by sharing this information, what the life story of Professor, somebody could be inspired. Somebody is frustrated, thinking of what to do with something. If he hears this life story, he will pick up his whatever the challenge is and start to do something. So you have a part to play by sharing this story for other people to listen. Thank you very much, viewers, for listening. And see you. In fact, I'll soon be back here with another great legend life story. Thank you, Professor. I'm very grateful and nice to meet you. Do have a
Thank you.
wonderful time. Yes.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.